Last of Us Part 1 analysis. Spoilers, of course. The Last of Us is one of the most complex, layered, and impactful games I have played. It covers a wide range of themes, many of which highlight human nature, violence, and emotion. It uses an allegory of an apocalypse to convey how humans truly are in situations of danger and chaos. It shows how people take advantage of the chaos to unleash their inner evil, David, of course. And it also shows people who commit violent acts merely to survive one day to the next, Ellie, Joel, etc. In the end, both of these things are violent and cause suffering. But it's either that or you suffer yourself. You're either morally wrong or you die. The important thing in The Last of Us is that it highlights that other solutions do exist instead of violence. Tommy said this himself in the TV show. He said there were other options, but they just didn't know. This suggests that in a world where only violence is known, people gradually forget that there are other choices. Committing acts of violence is not easy, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. Because of this, you start to stop considering other options. This is a part of human nature, and it will happen to anyone who wishes to survive in the apocalypse. The result is people fighting each other. A fascist government is in place, as it's the only way to truly control society to stop the infection. And because of this, people rebel. The Fireflies also choose violence to stop Fedra. Because of this, people spend all their time fighting each other, to the point where the infected aren't even the most dangerous thing. After this, raiders need to kill innocent people just to get supplies. Even Joel did this. The Last of Us is extremely pessimistic in its view of the apocalypse. The idea is that if you wish to survive, you must choose violence. When everyone else chooses this, other options become scarce, and you have no choice. If you don't want to commit these acts, the only way out is suicide. Joel referenced this in the show specifically. One of the main themes is the idea of finding something to fight for. Joel didn't have anyone to fight for after his daughter died, and therefore, he had no reason to commit senseless violence. He didn't value his own life enough to keep living either. And yet, he didn't pull the trigger. There was still hope left in him. And that hope of happiness grew in him over time. But ironically, it is also the hope of happiness and a better life that drives him to commit the worst acts imaginable and, in fact, drives nearly everyone else to do the same. When you have something you want and care for, it's impossible to let it go. The Last of Us takes this to the extreme. Joel would have no reason to live if he didn't have Ellie. She was his motivation to keep fighting, and without that, what reason would he have to commit violent acts? For his survival, the game makes it clear that he didn't value his own life unless he didn't want a repeat of the dark times of his life, where he had nothing to live for. I think that the most important thing in the game is emotions. It is your ability to maintain your emotions and love that keeps you fighting. This is a very human idea. Loving someone enough to fight for them will keep you alive, but it will kill someone else, infected or human. The idea is that in human nature, love and cruelty are mutually exclusive. We are capable of committing the greatest acts of love and the greatest acts of evil. The Fireflies and Marlene had to shut out their emotions to operate on Ellie. This lack of empathy would have benefited everyone and resulted in a cure for the deadly disease. The irony is that this act is similar to Joel's act. The Fireflies would kill one and save the others, but Joel would save one and condemn the others. Which act was made from a strong bond with a personal emotion attached to it? It was Joel's action. But ironically, the strong bond and the personal emotion are what doomed the entire human race. We all kill to protect those we love, but Joel takes this to the extreme. In the end, these emotions end up dooming the human race. Not because having emotions is flawed, but because choosing violence and using that as a constant solution is flawed. The Last of Us highlights that this is just human nature, and Joel is the best representation of that. There are multiple arguments to Joel's actions. Were they really selfless, loving, and caring, even if they were violent? Well, maybe not. Yes, he cared deeply for Ellie, but he also cared about the idea of her. She was the thing that kept him fighting, and he couldn't let go of that. She helped him get over the loss of his daughter, but he would be damned if he had to go through it all again. So was this an act out of love, or was it an act of fear? The argument is that Joel was afraid. He was afraid to go back to a life where he had nothing to live for and where he had lost yet another daughter. He was not just scared for Ellie, but also for himself. He understood that he was not in a good place after Sarah's death, and he realized that he might have to go through it all again. He had those memories, and that made his desire to never experience those memories ever again even greater. All logic was out of the window, and this was an act that came from love, fear, and the human urge to endure and survive. For Joel, having Ellie is the only way to survive. When the chips are down, it is always survival of the fittest. And The Last of Us suggests that Joel would do anything to survive in the way he wanted, with the person he wanted. He was afraid to be suicidal again due to losing his reason to keep fighting. An important thing to highlight is that this wasn't what Ellie wanted. Ellie would want to go through with the operation and save the world. She understood the value of humanity's survival, whereas this is unimportant to Joel due to his bleak outlook on the world. And more importantly, all the things he's seen. He's gotten used to this life and knows the world is beyond saving. He's experienced cruelty firsthand and done those things himself. After 20 years in the apocalypse, the only thing he hopes for is a life with Ellie. He doesn't hope for world peace like the others. Joel might want things to be better, but it is insignificant if Ellie has to die. Is Joel selfish for this? Are all humans selfish for killing? Others for self-preservation and the preservation of those they love? In the end, the most loving act is to be able to kill for love. It is the most extreme thing that can be done, and it really shows how much you care for this person. But in the world of The Last of Us, killing is a normal act, and people do it all the time. To kill is nothing peculiar, and it's just a means of survival. Even the Fireflies are killing Ellie as a means of survival. Yes, it's the entire human race they're saving, but they're still using the ideology that made the apocalypse as bad as it was. The idea is that you can only kill to survive. This is what normalized murder and made it a normal part of life. The infected played a part, yes, but it was people who killed each other too. Joel, in the end, represents every human who is willing to kill for self-preservation and love. Maybe The Last of Us is trying to say that this is how we really are as humans. We all are capable of violence if the situation demands it. Are we any different than animals in that sense? People don't become evil, but the apocalypse brings out the worst of them. Fighting isn't the only way, but it increasingly becomes the only option the longer the apocalypse lasts. Why is this? Is violence a part of our core being? Is there an inexplicable urge to solve everything with violence? Joel represents the duality of human nature, the ability to commit the most violent act and the most loving act at the same time. As stated before, killing shows just how much you care for that person. And with the number of people who Joel kills, it genuinely shows just how much she means to him. It's a selfish form of love, and a form of love that causes him to kill. But in the end, it's also a very human form of love. This is how humans are in the end. There is the greatest of love and the greatest of violence in all of us. The problem is that when there is a society when these two things go hand in hand, the world ends up being condemned. and we slip into a world where violence is the only answer. And the more this happens, the easier it becomes to kill. In the end, does the human race matter? Is it beyond saving? Joel probably doesn't care about these questions. He just wants to save Ellie. He's only human in the end, and this act of violence and love is the most human thing imaginable. That's it for today, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you want me to make another one of these analysis videos, please let me know in the comments below.